In the quaint town of Cedar Grove, a shadow loomed over a mystery that gripped its residents for 15 long years. Imagine a man, a father, a husband, someone who was once an integral part of the community, mysteriously vanishing one day without a trace. Family members were left in shambles, friends grasping at shadows, and the townsfolk left to wonder, what happened to Ian Carter? What led to his disappearance, and more intriguingly, who was he when he returned? These questions reverberated through Cedar Grove for years, instilling both sorrow and curiosity in the hearts of those left behind. But that's not where the story ends. Fast forward to a chilly autumn day, the kind when the leaves turn crisp and the air fills with anticipation. Ian had just walked back into town, as casually as if he had been out for groceries. The gasps echoed through the quiet streets that morning. Disbelief was palpable. He looked the same, yet he was utterly different. Ian Carter returned home with no memories of where he had been or even who he was. This twist left everyone, his wife, his children, even his childhood friends, grappling with a haunting reality. Not only did they lose him once, but they had also lost the man who had come back. You might be wondering what could possibly lead a person to vanish for so long and come back as a complete stranger. The truth is often more baffling than the fiction we create in our minds. Ian's story, over time, opened up a deep dive into the human psyche, the intricate weave of identity, memory, and the profound effects of trauma. What does it mean to lose oneself? Can a person's identity truly be stripped away, rebuilt, or forever entwined in the fog of oblivion? With every detail that unfolded, new layers of complexity painted the canvas of his life. As Ian stood at the edge of the town's central park, encountering familiar faces and places, it became painfully clear he didn't recognize any of it. His heart raced as he scanned the park bench that was once infused with laughter, a romantic rendezvous with his wife, and plans for their children's future. Strangers now inhabited those memories. Where did the connections go? Why were they replaced with an eerie silence in his mind? His wife, Sarah, stood nearby, disbelief merging with desperation. She whispered his name into the wind, but each call reverberated with emptiness. Her gaze was laden with hope and fear, hope that the man from their past would somehow return, and fear that this new man might never even know her. This peculiar re-entry into a life once lived is a phenomenon known as dissociative fugue, a rare psychological condition where the individual forgets significant personal information and memories, often triggered by extreme stress or trauma. Studies suggest that during a fugue state, a person might completely abandon their past, assuming a new identity or existence somewhere else. But why had Ian been affected in this way? What comes next will leave you speechless. The keys to his disappearance were lurking, hidden beneath layers of mundane existence, waiting to be unearthed. As townsfolk slowly discovered Ian's story, echoes from the past began to surface, images of dark nights and whispers of tragedy woven into their town's history. The closer they looked, the more they realized that Ian's story was intertwined with their own. The fabric of Cedar Grove, it appeared, was entwined with secrets and shadows. For the community as a whole, unraveling the riddle of Ian's absence meant confronting uncomfortable truths. How could these seemingly ordinary people foster a chaos that could lead one of their own to disappear? You might think of a disappearance as an act of rebellion, a quest for freedom or escape. But what if, for Ian, his absence was not a choice but a silent plea from a battered soul, yearning for respite from the unrelenting weight of existence? As days turned into weeks, Ian's attempts to reconstruct himself felt overwhelmingly daunting. He spent hours leafing through photo albums, each image a harsh reminder of the distance that had grown between him and the family he could not recognize. Every snapshot told a story he couldn't remember, birthdays, anniversaries, vacations that felt like figments of someone else's imagination. The pictures were full of emotion, laughter, and life, but for Ian, they were just colors on a page. At the dinner table, where the clanking of dishes usually offered a comforting symphony of togetherness, silence now descended like a heavy fog. Ian felt like an intruder in his own home, a man caught between two worlds, the one he'd lost and the one he was learning to navigate. Could he ever reclaim what was lost, or was he forever destined to wander the vast expanse of amnesia? During his return, many looked at Ian as if he were a ghost, a specter from the past resurrected, yet utterly foreign. The psychological implications ran deep. An us versus him mentality started brewing among townsfolk, questioning if they should embrace him or keep their distance. Some felt pity, others skepticism. Could the memories lost ever truly be retrieved? Many wondered if it would be more traumatic to dredge up the past that Ian had buried. And as we peer deeper into this intricate web, surprising revelations unfold about the human psyche, our identities, and the sometimes tenuous threads that hold our memories together. Did you know that the average person forgets roughly 70% of information they learn? Now, imagine losing entire years of your life that once held your very essence. What remains when the mind blocks out memories? Can a person still be deemed the same individual without their history? Ian would soon discover he was not alone in this struggle. He was just a figure within the larger narrative of human resilience and fragility, a reflection of many who battle with their past. In the weeks following his return, Sarah devoted herself to helping Ian reclaim not just his lost memories, but also his sense of belonging, his identity. Each day, she took him through the motions of their lives, narrating stories that once held weight in their shared world. "This was our first home," she would say, her eyes glistening with the longing for connection. "We painted these walls together. You would come home from work and cook dinner on Tuesday nights." Yet, despite these earnest attempts, Ian felt as if he was trying to piece together a broken puzzle with missing fragments. Would every attempt at normalcy only deepen that sense of alienation? Despite Sarah's unwavering hope, the truth lingered heavily in the air. The resemblance of his old self was simply a mirage. In the heart of Cedar Grove, Ian became a symbol of curiosity and skepticism, eliciting a myriad of reactions. Social media hashtags trended with phrases like #WhereIsIan and #CedarGroveMystery. This fascination morphed into a near obsession as the townsfolk dissected every detail, seeking clues and answers. Friends and neighbors began organizing gatherings in hopes of triggering his memory. They shared their personal stories, hoping that one familiar face could spark a flicker of recognition. But herein lies a poignant question. Did these well-intentioned gestures help, or did they act like stones skipped across the surface of a vast ocean, creating ripples but never allowing a profound connection to form? As Ian listened to the tales spun around him, the echoes of their warmth fell flat against the cold walls his mind had erected. He felt increasingly like a spectator, peering in through a glass window into a life that had once been his own. Was it possible that the memories Ian sought were not lost but rather hidden, buried deep beneath layers of trauma and confusion? As our story unfolds, we take a journey revealing how subconscious experiences can shape identity without conscious recollection. Ian was not just reclaiming memories, he was navigating a labyrinth, unsure of what lay at its center. Through the townsfolk's well-meaning efforts, hints of Ian's past began to resurface like whispered secrets. One afternoon, while visiting a local cafe that had served as a regular haunt, the scent of roasted coffee and freshly baked pastries transported him back momentarily. He caught a glimpse of a barista who seemed to recognize him. "Ian, it's been ages. Remember how you used to come here before work every morning?" Something stirred deep within him. Was there a flicker of recognition behind those eyes, or simply the weight of expectation? As the community wrestled with Ian's predicament, the mystery surrounding his disappearance morphed into a catalyst for conversations regarding mental health and trauma. People began examining their own lives, questioning, what do we truly know about ourselves? What happens when the unhealed wounds of the past create barriers that keep us from connecting with our present selves? In the next segments, stay tuned as we delve deeper into Ian's psyche, exploring the intricacies of his memory, the impact on familial bonds, and the very concept of identity in a world that feels ever-changing. We will also uncover shocking realities of mental health challenges often ignored and push the narrative toward an unexpected climax that will challenge your perception of memory and existence. As we continue this riveting journey, prepare for a twist that examines how the threads of memory can become a tangled web, one only unraveling when we confront the darker corners of our minds and hearts. Where will Ian's story ultimately lead us, and which truths will surface as we embark on this exploration of self-discovery and healing? The answers may surprise you. As the weeks unfolded in Cedar Grove, the gravity of Ian's situation began to attract more than just local attention. The phenomena surrounding his disappearance and sudden return reached the ears of mental health professionals who expressed both intrigue and concern. Tapping into the complexities of dissociative disorders, some experts proposed that even the passage of time could be a catalyst, shaping perceptions and emotions in unexpected ways. Ian's case became a focal point for workshops and seminars, a poignant reminder of the fragility of memory and its direct link to identity. But to Ian, the steady stream of outside interest felt suffocating. Every article written and every discussion he overheard reminded him that he was merely an exhibit to the townsfolk, an unsolved case, a puzzle inviting public scrutiny, yet incapable of answering the most pressing question: who am I? The emotional turmoil within him grew heavier, likening it to the onset of a storm, building pressure with no outlet. In one therapy session, prompted by his wife's insistence, Ian sat across from Dr. Gonzalez, a soft-spoken psychologist specializing in trauma. "Ian," she began gently, "your memories might be hidden, but they're not gone. Let's explore what feelings come up when you think about your family." Ian shifted uncomfortably in his chair, grappling with a landscape of emotions that swirled chaotically within him: fear, anger, sadness. "I feel trapped," he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "I can't shake this sensation that I'm in some sort of limbo. It's like I'm waking up from a dream, but there's no clarity. Just shadows." "It's perfectly natural to feel disoriented," Dr. Gonzalez reassured him. "You lost something essential to yourself, and grappling with that loss does take time. But we have to confront what lies behind that fog. Can you remember a moment, any moment, with clarity that stirs a feeling?" His brow furrowed, and his heart raced as images swirled in his head, faces melted into indistinct shapes amid flashes of warmth and laughter. He pictured a birthday cake adorned with flickering candles, the echoes of happy birthday whispered sweetly in the air. "There's a garden," he ventured, but uncertainty crept back in. "Maybe a party?" "Good. Let's delve deeper. What do you see in that garden?" she encouraged, guiding him gently through the door of his own consciousness. A tremor of recognition passed through him like a bolt of lightning. "There are children, my children." His voice cracked, a crack in the stone facade he'd built to shield himself from the truth. "But their faces, why can't I see their faces clearly?" Dr. Gonzalez nodded sagely, knowing that the unearthly blend of hope and despair often characterizes the journeys of those dealing with trauma. "That's where the healing begins, Ian. Recognizing what's lost is the first step toward rebuilding what you can." Just then, the door swung open, and Sarah stepped in, her expression a mixture of trepidation and eagerness. "I thought I'd find you here," she said softly, a paper cup of steaming coffee clasped in her hands. "Sarah." Ian stood up, yearning to embrace her but unsure if he deserved that kind of connection. The instinct to reach out fought hard against his fear of disappointment, of becoming even more estranged from her. Dr. Gonzalez gestured for Sarah to join them as Ian shared the breakthrough about the flickering image of his children and the garden. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes, a bittersweet mixture of hope and hurt. "That's wonderful. You're beginning to remember little things. We can build on that." But as comfort flooded through Sarah, a shadow lingered in Ian's heart, an uneasy admission that with every step toward reconstruction, he felt increasingly terrified of what he might unearth. What if those memories carried truths he couldn't bear? What if those children were not just a reflection of joy but shadowed by pain, loss, or regret? As the evening sun sank on another day, Ian was met with a familiar yet unfamiliar sight, his reflection in the window of their home. The man staring back at him seemed like a silent observer, worn and weary. He thought of the distant garden again, conjuring memories filled with laughter. But there was something darker lurking just below the surface. Driven to explore, the urge for answers propelled Ian toward the local library the following day, where decades' worth of Cedar Grove history could be sifted through like grains of sand. Perhaps, in navigating other people's stories, he could stumble upon the truths that comprised his own. The library was a time capsule, with shelves burdened by the weight of countless narratives waiting to be unearthed. After scanning articles and journals, he picked up a battered book titled The Chronicles of Cedar Grove, dictated by a longtime resident. Flipping through its pages, a phrase caught his eye, turning the pages back several decades to recount tales of the town, the whispers of tragedies that riveted the community's history. Suddenly, a name leapt out at him, Margaret Sloan. The description painted her as a spirited woman who had vanished under mysterious circumstances exactly 16 years prior, a celebrated teacher whose absence had left an echoing void among her students. Ian's heart raced as he skimmed through passages that detailed the small-town tragedy. Could there be a connection between her disappearance and his own? He became absorbed in uncovering layers of Cedar Grove's past, driven by a sense of something larger at play, a haunting resonance. Nights blurred into mornings as he pored over police reports, community notes, and personal diaries, desperate to peel back the layers surrounding Margaret's chilling tale, convinced it might unravel the mystery of his own existence. The town's lore began entwining Ian and Margaret, events from her life mirrored shadows from his own. Once a proud, bright figure teaching children about hope and wisdom, Margaret's disappearance instilled a different kind of fear in Cedar Grove, a community that still looked back in time while gripping tightly onto its present. As he moved deeper into the story, Ian stumbled upon something chilling, whispers of a mental health epidemic in the town attributed to a series of traumatic events, an undercurrent of grief shaping the very fabric of Cedar Grove. Could it be that, just like Margaret, Ian had vanished as a buried response to unaddressed pain? He returned home, grappling with a surge of emotions. The truth was starting to reveal itself, one of unreconciled trauma, harboring itself in the lives of many who needed to escape but never did. As the lines began to blur between Ian's identity and that of Margaret, he realized that their stories might be forever entwined. Over coffee one afternoon at their kitchen table, Ian could resist his curiosity no longer. "Sarah," he began, "what do you know about Margaret Sloan?" Surprise darted across her face. "Margaret? Why do you ask?" "I found some references about her in the library." "Her disappearance, what if it's connected to mine?" Sarah frowned, uncertainty cloaking her features. "She was a beloved teacher. How could you possibly?" "Ian, the townsfolk have never fully understood what happened to her. It was ruled a disappearance, but many believed she ran away, unable to face the darkness here. Could it be that the same darkness claimed me?" Ian's question filled the air with a chilling resonance, as Sarah's gaze softened but also grew troubled. "Please, let's not speculate," she advised gently. "Your journey doesn't have to be defined by her." But Ian realized that his act of rebuilding would be inherently tied to confronting the echoes of these pasts, the collective grief that shaped lives lived in Cedar Grove. The answers lay not only in understanding his own life but in piecing together a puzzle that extended beyond himself. He wouldn't find the man he was meant to be until the town faced the shadows it had long ignored. One evening, spurred by newfound determination, Ian sought out Dr. Gonzalez again, presenting his discovery. "I need to explore this connection to Margaret Sloan. If I'm to emerge from this fog, I must delay no longer." Right then, it became clear that confronting unresolved histories would unlock the door to his memories, both personal and collective. In doing so, he hoped to build a bridge between the fragmented identities that defined him. Days later, as he stood at the edge of the very garden that lingered in his fuzzy memory, Ian felt invigorated yet terrified. He sensed an energy shifting beneath his feet, as if the roots of every plant had intertwined with memories extant within the soil, a mimicry of the past buried under leaves and time. And in the odd silence that followed, memories surged forth, flashes of laughter with his children, echoes of promises and hopes once spoken. He saw their faces, vibrant, joyful, and filled with countless moments that birthed love, only to be carved away by his absence. But just as quickly, the laughter faded, replaced by an overwhelming sense of loss, understanding that those moments could never truly return, but they existed within him nonetheless, waiting for recognition. As Ian closed his eyes, the sun cascading warmth upon him, he allowed the garden to become a vessel, holding the shared memories of Cedar Grove, of Ian, and of Margaret. As the petals rustled in the breeze, he understood this space was not just his, it belonged to the collective us, a tapestry of lives intertwined through shared experiences, grief, and healing. Ian opened his eyes, steadying himself against the present and embracing the intertwined past, the line that connected every person in Cedar Grove. It wasn't just about Ian reclaiming his identity or unwrapping the layers of memory, but sharing, journeying together and rediscovering who they all could be. With a sense of newfound strength, he returned to Sarah, determined to forge a path forward, one where memory became a source of connection rather than an anchor holding him back. Together, they could begin addressing the past, empowered by their stories, unearthing the truths buried deep within Cedar Grove, and transforming loss into a foundation for resilience and growth. As the community rallied together in the wake of Ian's return, conversations transformed from mere curiosity to resolute exploration. They acknowledged the shadows hiding in plain sight, the unhealed scars effortlessly passed down through generations, recognizing that healing could only come to fruition by confronting the buried truths. In that pivotal shift, Ian found solace in recognizing his fractured identity was merely a facet of the larger human experience. As those left behind transformed their apprehensions into acceptance, Ian took the courageous steps to reclaim not just his memories, but the entire essence of who he could become. As the final esoteric thread unraveled, marking the journey toward reunification, the narrative cast a light on Cedar Grove's intricacies, an exploration of how identity threads through every existence, how memories bridge our pasts and presents, ultimately revealing that while pain may carve out space in our lives, it is love that fills us and keeps us whole. Once fragmented pieces, Ian began to see the infinite potential of every memory, the fleeting joy and unending yearning, the ebb and flow of what it means to be alive. In their shared stride, fortified by the presence and support of his loved ones, Ian embraced his rebirth, the story evolving as a tapestry woven with every emotion threaded through the heart of Cedar Grove. And as the sun set over the town, bathing them in golden hues, the mysteries, grief, and shadows began to dissolve under the embrace of remembrance, a testament that sometimes we must lose ourselves entirely to rediscover more profoundly who we are meant to be.